Welcome once again to the motomill, everybody. If this is your first time seeing us or you haven't done it already, hit subscribe. That's the best way you could help our little museum out. We started this YouTube page about 40 days ago and we're doing good. Thanks, everybody. We're always into something fun here, and in fact today we are going to put some Works Performance shocks on this Kent Howerton Husqvarna. But the bike we're really going to focus on is Bultaco's 1965 MK1 Persang. Some people will call this bike a Mark 1, or they'll also call it a Petite Matisse. And that's kind of an oxymoron. This bike isn't a Petite Matisse. It is using a copy of Rickman's Matisse frame, but the word Matisse means mongrel. And this bike being a Persang, Persang means purebred. This was Bultaco's first iteration for their own motocross bike, using at least in the Persang form. Before this, they did have Sherpa S, the Model 3s. Those are cool bikes. Now, I've always really liked these bikes. I mean, all Bultacos have so much heart and soul to them, but I've thought these are always cool. They're pretty looking machines. They're unique. This one's actually in really rough shape. I would probably say that I've basically got to pull this bike back down and restore it once again. If you saw this machine when I first got it, it was like an absolute calamity. It was really bad. This is just at the point where now somebody saw it, they'd say, you know, I could restore that one. So I've saved it. I've turned it back into a good core. It's got a lot of really cool features being an early Bultaco. 4-speed motor. They basically use this power plant in all their early stuff. Libidos, Matralas, Camperas. All of that cool stuff. And if you notice, look how tight the handlebars turn. On a lot of the early Spanish bikes I noticed, like these and Stiletto 230s, you got to be careful when leaning them up against something, and you got to be careful how you position your levers and everything, because like they just turn so tight. Look, that handlebar and everything is almost into the gas tank there. You got to be careful when you're riding them too, because without steering stops that stop it early, you know, that could really cause a pretty dangerous wreck. But I guess if you're at that point, you already got more troubles. Now in the back, you'll notice here that I've got an aluminum rim. Originally these came with steel ones. This is going to be off a slightly later Sherpa S. I just thought it'd be nice to match that to the front so that they could both have those shoulder to crons. Notice all this fiberglass bodywork. It was all in really bad shape when I first got it. It'd still be bolted down and have a little finishing work done. It's got that monoblock carb on it, stock foot pegs and brake lever. It's got Bader forks. I like the Baders. These ones are pretty rusty, but that's not a big deal for me because I have a lot of spares of those. I did this bike all on the cheaps. Basically, I traded a Penton Berkshire for it that I had just kind of came in a package deal from when I bought a Husky 250. So I'm into this thing for very little dollars. As you can see, like I said before, there's a lot to still do with it. I got to get the chain adjustment disc because this bike does adjust off that swing arm pivot in the front. You'll notice it's got no adjusters back here. Now, Bultacos are normally known for like their absolutely beautiful aluminum casings and their great quality everything. Some of these earlier machines left a lot to be desired. You'll notice one of the toughest things for me about this build is going to be the cracked cylinder fins here. It's hard to weld that cast aluminum, and those fins are just so fragile. Surprisingly enough, even though this bike's in pretty rough shape, this motor actually turns over and is in really good condition. Stock bore, everything's really nice. I like to finally put some crank seals in it before I fire it up, and I'd like to clean the points. I have one really big difficulty though. This cover is actually frozen on. I can't get it. That Kickstarter shaft is frozen in to that cover. So I could bust it up or do something violent like that, but the problem is, you'll notice back here where these casings line up, a lot of the 4-speed Bultaco ones, sometimes it's tough to get a very good fit if you don't have the one that was originally cast for your engine. they must have just slowly morphed over time, because I've seen slightly different variations in them. People get them, and then when they put them on a new bike, they've got to file them. So since I'm not in a rush on this machine, I'll just keep adding some penetrating oil to it and just keep working it over the next year or so, and it'll probably break loose. And once it does, I'll change out the seals on this motor, clean the points up, and I'll probably have a halfway decent, good running bike. And from there, I can really tear this machine down once again, clean it up, and start using it for what it deserves. Now, this is a pretty cool one, really. This is actually, they had a few different variants of these. Man, there's just so much to cover about these bikes, but this one here should be using the TSS 250 porting, because since this one has the 19-inch front wheel, this is considered a TT model. This is very, very low numbers here. This one, I want to say, is around 220 or 230 off the production line. Bultaco did build a fair amount of these machines. They're not incredibly rare, but they are becoming more sought after. I always just think the pastel yellow is very pretty. And they were good bikes, but, you know, the frame was the big issue. It no longer was the chromoly that the Rickmans had been using, and that really killed it. In fact, I've heard stories from people over in Spain that Senior Bulto actually went out to a construction site where they were ripping up a road and pulling that, and that was actually steel water pipe or steel piping of some kind. And he made a deal with them to actually buy all the scrap. And so that's where the MK1 Persang frames came from, if you believe that. That's pretty ridiculous, but I know old Senior Bulto there, he was always in it for a good deal. Let me know what you guys think of this one. We've got a lot of other Persangs, and I think we're going to do a ride-around video today or tomorrow, pretty soon, about our El Bandito. So we'll just keep everything moving here and keep showing you guys these bikes. Thank you so much, everybody, for your continued support. It means a ton.